Denial is not a river in Egypt. This is not a question, it's a story that I would like to talk about so some people can understand why it is so difficult when we are clearing our issues or when we are healing the past. First of all, if you have not lived in America, this phrase, denial is not a river in Egypt, might not make sense. Americans have this saying, when someone is in denial, they will say, you know what? Denial is not a river in Egypt. Simply because denial rhymes with Nile, the Nile River. So what they're trying to say is, you are in denial right now. Now, one of my friends called me, who does a very similar job as I do, and she was telling me about a client she had that day. The client was, in this life, was very much a control freak. And she was telling her about a few other problems she had too. One of them was she could never let go and enjoy sex, and that she had never experienced an orgasm in this life. So my friend, who is a healer, gets her to lie down, calls her higher self, and asks her higher self to guide her back to the source of this problem, to what it is that makes her need to be in control. Like, in other words, where does this need to be in control of everything come from? So the client starts seeing a past life with her third eye, and she could see that it was not pretty. She started to shake, she started to cry, and she says at some point, No, they are going to take my children away again. I'm going to pause it here for 1 second. The story. Now, they probably took away her children, must have killed her husband, who knows what. So since then, she had to always be in control of her environment so that this will not happen again. It's these kinds of things that make some people into total control freaks. Yes, they can be very annoying, but instead of being annoyed by them, just ask yourself, I wonder what happened in the past that this person now finds the need to be in control of everything in his or her life. Now, back to the story. When we go back to see what happened, we usually have to heal what happened. We have to close the books on what happened. And the only way to do this is to go through this pain, the pain that we suffered back then. In this case, when they were taking away her children for whatever reason. The story didn't finish, so we don't know why they were taking away her children and why again, and where her husband was. But in this life, the client could not go through this pain. So she completely shut down from 1 second to the next. And she says, No, my husband is back, my children are here, everything is okay now. We are at home now, we are sitting at the table having dinner, and my husband is smiling at me. And the healer just lost it. She thought, hang on a minute, how could you go from there to this in a split second? And she didn't know what to do. Personally, I would have pushed it. I would have said, listen, you have to go through the pain. Otherwise, you will not be able to clear this. And you will continue having the need to be a control freak for the rest of your life. But my friend there thought, it's not worth it. I won't push it, leave it. And she simply slowly brought her out of the session. I'm simply mentioning this story because I want to use it as an opportunity to explain that healing the past is not like going to Disneyland. There is pain. It was pain that we are trying, it is pain that we are trying to avoid in this life, and we do not look in, and we do not face our issues. You see, if we do want to clear the past, if we do want to become lighter and lighter and lighter, we will need to go through the pain, through the discomfort. I remember, I will say another story. This is personal. When I started waking up, about, I think it was 4, 5, maybe 6 months later, somebody gives me a session, and in the session, she says, your higher self is telling me that you're a little blocked in your emotional chakra, and there is something you need to go through in order for you to move on. Otherwise, you really won't be able to move on. This is as far as you can get at the moment without clearing this. And I said, what is it? And the healer said, I don't know the details, but I am seeing Ireland, the country, and I am seeing a lake. And that was enough for me. I knew exactly what had happened because I had seen it in a previous regression. However, I did not want to deal with it, like this woman. And then I had to deal with it to clear it. What had happened in that life was, I was a womanizer, and I had girlfriends apart from my wife, even though I was Irish Catholic. Could not take my wife's nagging anymore, so I left my wife. I must have had money to be able to do this. I must have had at least some money, because most people in all eras have remained married because they did not have the money to leave. Now, we had 3 children, and I would go back and play with my children or take them out. So after a while, my wife was still angry that I left her for other women. I must have loved my children. I did not see it, so I can't tell you that, oh yes, I loved my children. But in order for her to do what she did, I must have loved them. So she thought, she's going to get me. She's going to hit me in the one spot that I am sensitive. My children. So she takes them to the lake and she drowns them. All 3 of them. My then sister runs to me, tells me about it. I run to the lake. I see 3 dead bodies and my wife sitting on a rock. It looked like she had gone mad. I did absolutely nothing. I did not even pick them up and hold them. I did not cry. I just shut down. I turned back. I went to the port. I don't know if the port was in the city I was living at or whether it was in another city in Ireland. I got on a ship and I immigrated to America. And I had never cried for my children since that life. And that was where I was blocked in this life. It created a blockage that prevented me from moving on. from becoming more aware, from finding more of me. This is the problem with blockages. They prevent you from going deeper because they need to be cleared. The biggest reason is we cannot go into the next level and then carry the previous level's blockages with us. They're too heavy, and the next level's energy is much, much lighter. This is the reason we clear our issues and our blockages. It's not because they're bad. It has nothing to do with it. It simply has to do with they are heavy. Pain is heavy. So, as soon as this psychic left my house that was giving me the session, I lied in bed, closed my eyes, and I said, I'm ready to go back to that life, meaning the life in Ireland. And at that moment, all the pain started surfacing. The pain that I had blocked back in that life. And it was as if I had lost my children. It was as if my children were drowned in this life. This is exactly how painful it was to my emotional body and to my physical body. This pain was going on for about 2.5 days. After 2.5 days, I could not take the pain anymore. I, meaning in this life, Eric, could not take this pain anymore. And I said to the universe, I did not come to Earth for this kind of shit. I am ending it and I'm coming back. Get ready for me. I go and get a box of aspirins from the bathroom. I drank the whole thing. I think it was like 25 aspirins. And I lied in bed, ready to die. Now, something else crazy. My sister, at that time, lived about almost 1 kilometer away. And she was ready to give a session to somebody. Actually, to a friend of ours. And as she closes her eyes to give a session, my higher self comes to her. And she says to our friend, that's funny, Eric's higher self is here. My higher self gives her a hug and says, I have come to say goodbye. I am leaving now. My sister gets up and she calls me. I did not answer the phone. I must have turned it off. And she knew that I never turn my phone off. At that stage of my life, I was selling marijuana. So I needed to have the phone on because I was a drug dealer. Marijuana is not considered a drug anymore, but it used to be considered a drug back in the 90s. Anyway, back to the story. So they both start running towards my apartment. My sister had the key. They come in. They saw me in bed. She gets me up. She starts slapping me. I threw up. The aspirins came out. And I was saying to her, why did you do this? I need to leave. I want to leave. No, you're not going to leave. Get up. I'm going to give you a session. At that moment, she had her eyes closed. She could not see what was going on. But that was the first and only time I saw energy materialize. It materialized as an arm, a hand. Because I said, tell my higher self to come and get me. And while she was talking to my higher self with her eyes closed, I literally saw a physical hand in front of me, wanting to grab me and say, okay, come with me, to take me to the other side. At that moment, as I went to touch the hand, I thought, now is my chance to ask for something. And before I touched the hand, actually I never touched the hand. As I was going to grab the hand so it could pull me to the other side, I said, first I will fully express you in this body. And then I'm coming with you. Then the hand disappeared, and I hear my sister saying, and so it will be. However, what I said to my soul was in my mind. I did not say it physically, verbally. There was no voice. And I said to my sister, what will be? And she says, I don't know. I'm only getting, and so it will be. And this is what happened, and I did not leave at that time. And then I lied down, and I could feel energy on me, withdrawing, taking out the pain that I was going through from the fact that my 3 children were drowned. I don't know why I mentioned this story, but I mentioned it for people who are going through pain, that I'm afraid it's how it is. This is how it happens. In order to clear something, you must go through it. You can't just, like some healers say, I'm clearing all your problems from the past. It's like, what do you think this is? Afternoon tea with the Queen? What do you mean I'm clearing all your problems from the past? You clear it one by one. You understand it, and you become wiser. And then it is much easier for you to assist others, because every single individual on the planet has issues, either from this life, either from when they were in their mother's body, or from previous lives. And we cannot just turn on a switch and that's it. They've gone. They've been cleared. You're okay now. So go through the pain if you're ready. If you're not, that's okay, but there will never be an easy way to clear pain. Just keep this in mind. And try not to go into denial about it and say things like, we're sitting at the table and my husband is smiling at me. When on earth do you see a husband smiling at his wife? I had to say something bitchy. Come on. I will leave it at this.